Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the regular council meeting for July 22nd, 2025. I'd like to remind the members of the public in the gallery during a council meeting to adhere to the conduct set forth in the council procedure bylaw and displayed near the entrance of council chambers. I'll call the regular meeting to order at 7 o'clock, beginning with a land acknowledgement. Blackfalds Town Council acknowledges that we are on Treaty 6 territory, a traditional meeting ground, a gathering place, and traveling route to the Cree, Saulteaux, Blackfoot, Métis, Dene, and Nakota Sioux. We acknowledge all the many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit whose footsteps have marked these lands for centuries. Council had a chance to review agenda for this evening. Any changes from council? Administration, I understand there are some changes.
Yes, we do. We would like to reorder the items. So the regular agenda business item 6.6, a request for decision, Womacks Road and Broadway Ave. We would like to move that up to item 6.2 to accommodate Phil from SEMA, who is on our call with us tonight from Ontario. And then the remainder of the business items would be renumbered.
Okay.
We also have an addition of the regular agenda business items, 6.7, which will be a request for decision, letter of support for the Red Deer Ladies Fastball Association. And 6.8 will be a request for decision, the regular council meeting cancellation request for August 12th. And then the final addition will be confidential item 8.1, Aspen Lakes West School Site Development Agreement, Access to Information Act, ATIA, Section 32, Privileged Information.
Thank you. So we're a total of 8 business items, up to 6.8 and confidential 8.1. Thank you. Does member council wish to exempt any items from the proposed consent agenda before adopting the regular agenda? Seeing none, I'll ask for a motion to adopt the regular agenda as amended, please. Councillor Sands.
I'll move to accept the regular agenda for July 22nd as amended.
Thank you. Can I get a motion to adopt the consent agenda? Deputy Mayor Coulter.
I move to accept the consent agenda.
Okay, sorry, I didn't vote on the regular agenda. All in favor on the regular agenda adoption? Thank you. And the motion was for the consent agenda. All in favor? And that is both unanimous. And just to note that Councillor Appel sends her regrets for the meeting this evening. Okay, we're moving into the agenda, starting with the public hearing. The following public hearing is held pursuant to the Municipal Government Act. The following rules of conduct will be followed during the public hearing. Presentation should be brief and to the point. The order of the presentation shall be the enter of the written submission, comments from the Planning and Development Department, those supporting the bylaw, those opposing the bylaw, and any other person deemed to be affected by the bylaw. Public hearing purpose is to receive comments from any interested parties on the proposed land use bylaw amendment to redistrict Northwest 27-39-27 West 4 Meridian. I think that's how we say it. I hereby declare the public hearing relating to bylaw 1337.25 open.
The purpose of bylaw 1337.25 is to amend the land use bylaw to redistrict part northwest 27-39-27 west of the 4th meridian from residential single dwelling medium lot district R1M and public facility district PF to residential high density district R4 and parks and recreation district PR. First reading was given to 1337.2 or bylaw 1337.25 On June 24th, 2025, notice of this public hearing was advertised in accordance with Section 606 of the Municipal Government Act and the Town of Blackfalds Public Notification Bylaw and Public Participation Policy. A complete advertising listing is included in the public hearing report before you. The written submissions and comments received to date are also included in the public hearing report before you.
Thank you. There's a late written submission to the
Yes,
bylaw?
there is one late written submission, July 18th, 2025, submission from Alberta Health Services, Safe Healthy Environments. They have indicated they have no objections.
Thank you. Comments from the Planning and Development Department?
There are none.
Thank you. Is there anyone who supports the bylaw and wishes to speak? Is there anyone who opposes the bylaw and wishes to speak? If you come forward, state your name, and the mic is activated, so.
I'm Vince Spenst. I live on Vista Trail. And also my brother lives on Vista Trail across the street. We originally saw the original development plan and we were excited because we were thinking about building and buying a lot there. I've had my house on the market on 2 separate occasions in the last year. Loved the house, but nobody liked the busy road and it's getting worse and worse. If you put in more townhouses on that side, it's going to be even worse and it's going to devalue our houses. So nobody wants to buy on that street anymore. So it's just, we can deal with what we have already because they've already got townhouses there. There's nothing we can do about that. But now we're getting more townhouses and the traffic's even going to be worse. So that's my complaint. I don't want it, so.
Thank you. Does council have any questions for Mr. Spence? Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak against?
Hi, I'm Cy Spence. I live on Vista Trail as well, and pretty much same comments as what my brother just said. I know that's a main road for traffic, and you're going to expect some traffic, right? But with it being a high-density place that you're developing there, that's going to make it worse. And I do believe it will devalue our properties. And I was, like, the original development was nice. I did like that, how it had a crescent. And those lots are beautiful. They're walkouts. They're looking on that lake. It seems to me to be a waste to put multifamily townhouses on there. So I oppose this motion.
Thank you. Comments, questions from council? Anyone else who opposes the bylaw wishes to speak? Thank you. Take all the time you need.
Thank you. I've been asked by one of the homeowners to present on her behalf because she's on vacation.
Thank you. Can you just state your name, sir?
Kenneth Kendall. I live in Blackfalds. I do not live in that area, but I am a citizen of the town. So she did submit a letter to council, so I will read it into the record, and then we talked about some additional points she wanted made tonight. So to Mayor and Council, I am writing to formally express my opposition to the proposed rezoning of Valley Ridge Estates Phase 6B subdivision file. We won't get into specifics, it's there. A portion of the Northwest 3927 west of the 4th Meridian, from residential single-family dwelling medium lot district R1M and public facility district PF to residential high-density district R4 and parks and recreation district PR. The proposed change contradicts the principles outlined in the Valley Ridge Area Structure Plan under section 3.2.1. Development in this area is intended to complement and provide continuity to the existing town of Blackfalds. That is not the case. Additionally, section 4.21 specifies that the majority of residential lots are to be designated as low-density, single-family detached homes with zoning of either R1S or R1M to accommodate a range of market demands and price points. At the time of the development of the area structure plan, single-family residential lots were determined to be the highest and best use of the land. Nothing has changed. Nothing has changed. In Table 2, page 17 of the area structure plan, this is a plan that you folks have approved. It's a legal document. The document identifies 340 multifamily R2, R4 units and only 300 R1S and R1M units. Section 421 clearly states that single-family residential is to be the majority of the housing units. That's a statement in your ASP that you folks had approved, a legal document. For council to consider rezoning would suggest that their original policy decision in the ASP was flawed. I don't suspect you guys made a mistake when you approved the area structure plan. The town's most recent version of the land use bylaw, as presented on the town's website, identifies the area as zoned for single-family homes. With the policy statements identified in section 321 and 421 of the ASP, and further reinforced by the town's own land use bylaw, it would clearly send a message to the public who make their purchasing decisions based on such documents that this area was established for predominantly single-family residential. The proposed rezoning of R4 introduces a higher density residential format that conflicts with the area structure plan's vision and the established residential character of the area that's already there. Further reinforced in Table 2 of the ASP, residential units and density. With continued growth in Blackfalds, the housing market is demonstrating the current zoning that there is no economic argument that can support the need to rezone to a higher density other than increasing profits for a developer that doesn't live in the neighborhood. When I purchased my property, it was with the understanding, based on the land use bylaw zoning and the statements of the ASP, that the majority of the lots would be developed as single-family homes. This expectation factored significantly into my decision and financial investment. A change of zoning now to allow for an even higher density development poses a serious concern, particularly regarding potential impacts on property values, traffic, and the cohesive nature of the neighborhood. Given the above, I respectfully request the town of Blackfalds deny the proposed rezoning and maintain the current zoning designations of R1M and PF in keeping with the land use bylaw and the highest and best use of the land. Why was I asked to present? Because for over 2 decades I sat on your side of the table. I understand the game. I understand the process. I understand why it's done the way it is. You do have a legal obligation to hold a public hearing. The question that I ask council is why in July? I see 2 members of council aren't here, or 1 member is not here. Vacation? Well, there's only 2 people here and 1 written submission. Why might that be? Because people probably are on vacation in July. When I was a CAO, I never ran through a major zoning item during July and August because there were people away from home that were impacted. So the question is process. And I understand the challenges that you folks face. And I understand the challenges of zoning with regards to creating economic development. I've had those debates and discussions from policy perspectives with councils for 22 years. I've also acted as a consultant for the last 15 years to numerous municipalities across the province. I get it. I get it. But if you look at that area, guys, there's very few vacant lots left because they're selling. And your planning premises are based on the highest and best use of the land. That is what it always comes back to. Not economic well-being, not the need to force a dollar. And I understand the need to build multifamily. We all understand that. But we also need to slow down the process. You as elected representatives, and I've had this discussion with my councillors many times, you have been elected to represent the citizens of the town, the taxpayers of the town, the people that showed up at the last election to put you in those seats, the people that will show up at the next election to put you in those seats. You're there to represent those citizens, the ones that are here today and the ones that aren't here because they're on vacation, because a public hearing was held in July. So as a past CAO, and I understand your motivations to do things, I think that there's probably a better approach for council here that maybe slow down the process and basically have your planning staff sit down with some of the residents in the area and come up with what they think might work. Because there was a conceptual plan that did show a cul-de-sac in with walkout lots, with a good view as represented by the two previous speakers, that could be considered very well the highest and best use of the land, as opposed to pushing it into multifamily. And those lots are generating you over $6,000 in tax revenue. So it's not like if you went to the cul-de-sac, you're actually going to hurt yourself financially. You're going to do very well from a financial perspective, even though you're not supposed to bring that into your considerations in your discussions. And again, I understand and respect that because I've sat on your side and I've heard every argument. And we're not supposed to stray into economics. We're supposed to talk about highest and best use of that land. So people made decisions to go there because there was going to be a future cul-de-sac. That was going to give an additional level of buffer and reduce a little bit of impact on the traffic. Now, that road there, that's a collector road. So that is actually built for high traffic volumes. That's just life. You want less traffic? Take a local road. Build on a local road. Build in a built-up area, right? But the fact is that guys with my many years of experience, I urge council to be careful on this one and to go slow. There's nothing wrong with slowing down the process. There's nothing wrong with holding it back, defeating the second reading, and then having your planning people meet with the residents in the area. And I would suggest in September when people are back from their vacations and having a discussion and saying, okay, this is what we're looking at here. Not the motivation of a developer. And I've dealt with many, many developers, and we all need developers and they're good people, but they're also not citizens of the community. You represent the citizens of the community. That's why you're here. Thank you for your time.
Questions from council? None. Is there anyone deemed to be affected by the bylaw and wishes to speak?
Good evening, Mayor, members of council. My name is Gordon with Stantec Consulting, so we are the applicant on behalf of McWilliams Corp. On this application itself. Exactly 1 year ago or so, we actually came to council for the same development or same type of development on the east side. So I am really excited to come and speak to a potentially second significant project in the town of Blackfalds within a 12-month period from a scale of project investment in the community. These are big projects. I think that this commitment actually really represents the developers' continued interest in the town itself, their legacy and their history in this town. And, you know, this isn't a developer that's just one and done. They have been involved with that area for quite some time. And even currently with what's happening on the east side, you know, I hope that it does represent a good neighbor and a good development that will provide good opportunities for housing in the town of Blackfalds itself. So Valley Ridge 6B is envisioned as a 148-unit rental project similar to the development on the other side. The proposed plan does offer different townhouse options at different price points itself. And as of right now, the parking landscape function of the site has been carefully considered. The rezoning application is actually consistent with the area structure plan itself. We went through this process, including public engagement in early 2024 to amend that area structure plan to allow for R1 zoning. So this application is consistent. And at the very end, I think I'll talk a little bit in terms of the process. There seems to be some misconfusion in regards to what we're rezoning to R4 and what it shows on the area structure plan. So I'll talk about that in a second itself. We understand that there are questions and there are comments, and you know what, at the end of the day, any development is scary for residents that live there already, and especially when we talk about multifamily, there is just inherently a negative optics of what multifamily is sometimes. This idea that, you know, the residents that will be living there, or this high volume of traffic. So again, this is quite common in our industry that we have to go to the community and discuss these things. And you know what, at the end of the day, as most of you understand, once these multifamily developments are done, they're usually not too bad, and they usually don't have much concerns. It's just that lead-up process up until that point of the final build where people really do have those comments, opinions about it. So Blackfalds does need more housing like any other community in central Alberta. And you know what? I think at the end of the day, I think sometimes we lie to ourselves when we say looking at more housing options is just looking at more single-family housing options. We do need to look at more multifamily housing options, whether that's duplex sites, multifamily, site development, like what's being proposed. And I think more importantly, over the last 20 years that I've been in central Alberta, there is a lack of rental projects as a whole. I can't remember a time when we don't talk about rental housing as basement suites or apartment buildings. So something like these townhouse developments are really different. You know, it provides renters that ability to really rent something that's different than what's currently typical in the marketplace itself. The location of the site is ideal for multifamily. Best practice tells us that we should locate these multifamily sites along collector roadways, areas that are close to parks, and areas that have access to commercial sites and amenities like the Abbey Center. This is where anything you look at from a policy standpoint, from a good design standpoint, this is where multifamily site wants to be. And if it was a new development, a redevelopment of anywhere, we would always work with the municipality to put them along major roadways such as Vista Trail. Access to the development comes from Vista Trail South, Vista Trail North, Womacks Road, and Westbrook Road. And the number of access to this site is actually quite uncommon compared to most multifamily sites. When you think about most multifamily sites, one side of it is adjacent to a collector road, usually kind of one major way in and out. This site actually does have quite a few ways to get in and out. And what that really means is that it disperses the traffic into multiple directions. When we do traffic assessments and traffic counts, we really talk about how many cars are moving north, how many cars are moving east, west. And in this situation, like I mentioned, there's about 4 accesses in and out of this area. So that really is a positive. The development itself will also provide appropriate parking itself and will also benefit from some of the street parking from Vista Trail itself. And as mentioned earlier, what is a collector road? A larger standard of roadway that is meant to handle significant amounts of traffic compared to a local road. In terms of the process itself, like I think there's some, and maybe I may be corrected by administration, but in the past, in the town of Blackfalds, rezoning happened at the time of an area structure plan approval. So when an area structure plan approval got approved, the rezoning happened at the same time. In 2024, when we did the amendment to multifamily, which has been approved already, that rezoning didn't happen. So I don't think we're, from an optic standpoint, we're not rezoning from single family low density straight to multifamily. We're actually rezoning as per the area structure plan that has been approved already. Other than that, I think with any projects like these big significant projects, there's a lot of parts to it. One thing that I do want to ensure council here is that rezoning is also scary because the opportunities for that multifamily can be anywhere from a site development to a super high density apartment building. We have actually already submitted our development permit showing the layout and the site development itself. It shows 148 units, it shows ample amounts of parking, it shows the landscaping and the access points. So it's, this isn't necessarily a smoke and mirrors situation where we're gonna apply for something, tell you it's something, and that's gonna be an apartment building. We have already provided all the necessary information right now to submit, or we've submitted the development permit application already, representing a lower density development than what is allowed within R4. Other than that, myself, Alan Foreman, who's the engineer with Stantec on this project, the developer and also the developer's project manager are all here if you guys have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions from council? Deputy Mayor Coulter.
Excuse me. I was just wondering, in the traffic like, have you guys done any kind of a traffic analysis, adding these 148 units over there with the developments that we already have going over there?
There's just a word, Mr. Gordon, Stantec consultant or to planning and development?
Well, Stantec Development had mentioned that it wasn't gonna make much of a change.
Thank you. Mr. Gordon, are you happy to take questions regarding we do have an opportunity to, with planning and development, to make comments, but if this is something that you would deflect, thank you.
So yeah, as we discussed at the last meeting, the volumes of the Vista Trail roadway don't warrant an additional traffic analysis to be done on the intersection because, you know, there could be 2 or 3 of these size of developments that would be allowed to come onto Vista Trail and the traffic would be managed through that. So really, if we did do a traffic analysis, it would show that there's lots of capacity on Vista Trail because it is a collector road. So we weren't planning on making that a requirement of the development permit just because of the fact that the zoning is so it's definitely available to handle that capacity of Vista Trail. So yeah.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments from council? Are there any other further comments from Planning and Development Department?
There are none.
Any further questions from council? Seeing nothing further, I hereby declare this public hearing relating to bylaw 1337.25 to be closed at 7:27. We have no delegation this evening. Moving into business items. Item 6.1 being the request for decision on bylaw 1337.25, the Valley Ridge Estates Phase 6B redistricting, second and third reading.
Thank you, Mayor Hoover, members of council. The bylaw before council proposes to redistrict part of the Northwest 27, 39, 27 west of the 4th in the Valley Ridge Estates community from the current residential single-dwelling medium lot district and public facility district to residential high-density district and parks and recreation district to accommodate a comprehensive townhouse development consisting of both side-by-side and stacked townhouse units as a single ownership. The anticipated development will be very similar to the type of development currently under construction east of this parcel. Council gave first reading to the amending bylaw at the June 24th meeting and set the public hearing for this evening's regular council meeting. Administration is supportive of the proposed redistricting as it meets the following town statutory plans, policies, and focus areas. The land is identified for future residential development under Map 2 of the town's municipal development plan. Policy 3.12 of the municipal development plan lists item for considerations when assisting redistricting applications, such as suitability of the site for the proposed use, compatibility with surrounding uses, impacts on municipal road and infrastructure services, and so forth. Administration is satisfied that the proposed redistricting is suitable in light of these considerations. Policy 5.2 of the municipal development plan speaks to the town providing a range of housing types for residents. Policy 5.6 of the municipal development plan requires a mix of housing types and forms in all residential neighborhoods to avoid a concentration of any single type of housing. This application is also consistent with the updates to the Valley Ridge Estates Area Structure Plan that was adopted by Council on May 14th, 2024, including the community having a majority of low-density single-detached homes. If this redistricting is approved as is, a total of 30.94 acres of the Valley Ridge Estates community will be low density, meaning the R1S, your residential small lot, and R1M, residential medium lot districts. And 16.88 acres will be districted for high to medium density, being R2 and R4 respectively. The Town of Blackfalds 2024 to 2026 Midterm Strategic Plan identifies providing a range of housing to meet the needs of residents as one of the top 6 priorities, and identifies promoting options for housing as one of the areas of focus under strategic priority number 1 under community life. The boundary of the proposed Parks and Recreation District Council is considering this evening does differ slightly from what originally received first reading and was advertised with the public hearing notifications. The difference is the proposed PR district, public Parks and Recreation District, has been expanded slightly to accommodate a future trail link onto Lot 58 MR to the north due to the contours of land. In administration's opinion, this updated PR district boundary change is very minor in nature and does not impact the overall intent of the redistricting application and therefore does not require another public hearing and referral process. Concerns have been raised about the ability of Vista Trail to support the additional traffic that will result from the future development of this parcel. Vista Trail has been built in such a way it can handle significantly more traffic than the planned townhouse project and full build-out of the Aspen Lakes West community to the north, including the future school site. There is a portion of registered road right-of-way that is located on this parcel as well. The developer has applied to close this portion of road as it will become an access into the private development. The road closure bylaw will be presented to council shortly. Administration has had preliminary discussions with Alberta Transportation and Economic Corridors, and the department has expressed no objections or concerns at that time. The administrative recommendation before council is two-part. The first being that council gives second reading to Bylaw 133725, part of Northwest 273927 west of the 4th redistricting as amended. That as amended is that change in that PR district boundary to accommodate that expanded municipal reserve parcel. And secondly, that council give third reading to Bylaw 133725, part of Northwest 273927 west of the 4th redistricting as presented. I welcome any questions.
Deputy Mayor Coulter.
This comes up at a time that we're having a big discussion in regards to a road going to there. And I'm just not sure, like, on this, because they're both related in a roundabout way. Womacks Road and Vista Trail, and we're having a discussion about doing amendments to Womacks Road, which is going to greatly affect what's going on Vista Trail. And it was comment, and myself, my big thing is in regards to the traffic, and we have a new school going over there. Yes, we have a number of roads going in that are all going through residential areas that is going to affect the one road. It may be large enough to be able to hold this traffic, but having multifamily dwellings, or how you want to say them, in there increases the children capacity around that area, which increases problems on the road. I'm just a little bit concerned on if we've looked at all those aspects as well. That's why I put out the question earlier. We have a number of multi-dwelling homes going over there right now with the new school. So I'm having a hard time adding more youth on a busy road.
So if I'm understanding correctly, you're making a comparison or looking for consideration from the roundabout, or at least the traffic, to deal with traffic at Womack and Broadway, and now what impact that would have at Womack and Vista Trail would be your concern. Are you asking if there's been consideration then for that particular intersection?
Yes, I'm sorry about that. I'm just trying to understand how, because that's two major items happening and adding a lot of vehicles on both ways, which there's already is a lot of vehicles. And I understand the traffic, there isn't a field to do a study, but you can't do a study on top of adding so many more dwellings. So I feel that they're both sort of intertwined and going to impact one or the other. Do you have any sort of suggestions on that?
Director Warren, maybe you can assist?
Yeah, so the traffic master plan does look at all the roads throughout the area, and it does provide enough capacity in that area for that. Again, this increased development is only going to slightly increase that traffic in that area based upon the fact that it was initially about 100 single-family homes. So the impact isn't that much. Vista Trail does allow capacity for that whole area. And in the future, there will be a signalized intersection at Womacks and Vista once the traffic gets to that capacity. The intersection on the east side of town is a whole nother thing involving land and ownership and limitations on geometry. So that's the two big differences. I don't know if that's answered your question.
I'm going to say Councillor Schwab. Oh, Councillor Sands and then Councillor Schwab.
Thank you. I just along with what Deputy Mayor Coulter was talking about, this and the other business item we're going to be talking about tonight, with the increased traffic along Vista, I know, and this really has nothing to do with it, but I live in the area as well. But it doesn't affect me directly, but I know by the people that have come and spoke about this, I take personal that type of thing when they take the time. But I know with the increased traffic that there's going to be, because there has to be. I mean, has any thought been given into pedestrian safety and that type of thing? I want to see that type of thing, same along with our other business item tonight, because you know, I think we're kind of we're looking at two different things here. We're looking at values in homes that people have put their hard-earned dollars into. They want to see that. They want to keep it, and they deserve to. We also need to look at the municipality that needs to provide for the residents as well. And that thing is where I'm torn. But the thing is how soon does this have to be completed? How soon do we have to have this in order? Because like the gentleman that came and spoke, why are we doing it in July? Why don't we do it in September when we can have, the people that it's going to directly affect? Because it is a personal thing that a lot of people might want to stand up and talk about. So I'm just wondering if anybody has given any thought to pedestrian safety in this with the increased traffic, and can we push this off until the fall even?
Through Mayor Hoover, we always look to pedestrian safety when we're reviewing these types of applications. There will be internal sidewalks within that, which will link up to the sidewalk system that's along Vista Trail. We're also working on eliminating as many mid-block crossings and that sort of stuff as possible in these new plans. Beyond that, I'm not sure if Director Warren has anything else to add on the pedestrian safety standpoint of it.
I think we got one too many. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, so basically that roadway there, in the future, there would be, a pedestrian flashing beacon light there, even though it wouldn't be warranted. We've kind of been looking at where it makes sense to put those flashing pedestrian lights, and I think that Vista Trail location would be a good location. It will depend on where the pedestrian movements are going. in our new transportation master plan, we will be having a bit more of a focus on multimodal transportation. And there would be potentially a linkage from the back of the pathway in this area with the PF district into the Aspen Lakes area park to the east.
Okay.
As well as Manager Tekel indicated, there's a 3 meter or a 1.5 meter separate sidewalk on both sides of the road there. And then actually on the east side, adjacent to the new development, it's actually a 3 meter asphalt pathway. So there's definitely a lot of places for pedestrians to get in and out of that area.
Okay. And so, yeah, thank you for that. So my other question there was just, what's the hurry right now? That's something I just want to try to understand.
Can you cancel yours?
Sorry.
I'm going to cancel them all. There we go.
Unless you want it.
You're good now. We're limited to 3 mics. Yeah.
My apologies. Okay, through Mayor Hoover, why July? It just comes to the timing of the application. There is a duty to process these applications in an expedient manner. We did receive the application, I believe, in early July, or June, sorry, my apologies, or maybe even before that. And it's just the way that, you know, we tried to get it on the earliest council meeting and that sort of thing.
Yeah, and just further to that, council or administration doesn't really have any policy around not having these public hearings through the summer months. Like that's something that definitely this council or another council could look at revising so that, you know, these things are only taking place, you know, through the school months or whatnot. But yeah, it is one of those things where the developer would like to actually get in there and start building some of these things sooner before it frees up. So that's initially the requirement. And then the other part of it too is we do usually send these out to the referring or the adjacent landowners and the other areas. So they do have the ability to comment on that. I know that it is, you know, that's a very valid point in regards to the vacations and whatnot. But there's always people taking vacations, you know, whether it be in the middle of the year or whatnot. So we could look at that in the future. It's just not something that this council is really determined as being a necessity to remove those public hearings from the summer sessions in the last 15 years that I've been here.
Okay, thank you. What would it take to push this back to September?
Council, oh, sorry, through
Yeah,
Mayor.
one of our council, that would be a motion, you know, obviously everything is done by resolution here, but we do have other questions though that we would have to address before, and I can get back to your question. That's 2 subsequent. We'll get to your third. Yeah. Councillor Schwab.
I do have to echo Deputy Mayor Coulter and Councillor Sands as well. The traffic master plan was developed in 2015 and we just deferred it to 2026. 2015 Vista Trail didn't really exist past Womacks Road. And we've already had a lot of problems on Womacks Road since we've developed the arena from a 2015 traffic study. So how are we going to minimize anything that we don't know? A traffic study needs to be thoroughly done. The signals at Womacks and Vista Trail, when would that happen? And we've talked about putting pedestrian speed humps in the community, and Womacks Road has needed them for a long time, as well as around the schools, and we still haven't done anything like that. So how are we going to mitigate safety for our pedestrians if we haven't tried on other areas? I know Vista Trail is busy. I don't live on Vista Trail. I live on Womacks, but I go on Vista Trail every day to get out. And I know with the commercial development and all the townhouses down there now, if we add more townhouses, we add a school, we need to have things in place before all that takes place. So I do kind of agree with Councillor Sands. September would be a better time to bring this back. But I'm waiting to hear the rest of your guys' comments.
Councillor Dennis.
I have to agree with the 3 of you with your comments and whatnot. We have issues with pedestrians all over town, not even on just Vista Trail. We have problems on Womacks. We need either enforcement or get out there and notify the people of how things should be done. Even at the corner that we're talking about, putting a roundabout. Pedestrians is an issue there right now, along with the bikes riding across, not stopping, scooters, everything. Like, we are in a bad place. Vista Trail, we have school buses that stop on Vista Trail that the people don't stop for them, let alone kids crossing, and that's 4 lanes of traffic that they have to cross. Like, we've got some serious issues with traffic in this town that we need to address. Safety is a big issue.
Thank you. Other questions for Manager Tickle or administration? CEO Isaac.
I just want to make comment that council can postpone second and third reading. However, you will not be able to have another public hearing. You can only have one public hearing on a matter. The public hearing has already been adjourned, so we wouldn't be able to have a second public hearing. So just, I did want to make note of that, but you can postpone second and third reading if that's what you wish.
Councillor Dennis.
Just a question on that. If there's concerns from the citizens, they can still reach out and talk to us without going through the public hearing, correct?
I would suggest that that any resident or anybody in the public is free to contact anyone on council at any point to share concerns. It's not necessarily a public meeting that they could share that in, but they could express it through their elected representative, which is the case right now. So, Deputy Mayor Coulter.
Just to further between to administration, both sides. In regards, there was a suggestion of possibly opening it up that the residents that this is greatly affected would be able to come to administration and have a meeting with them. So, like, I'm in favor of pushing the second reading off, but is that something that we have to go through the, we don't have to take that through a public hearing? They set up a day in which they would be able to, in September, speak to a number of the residents that this is affecting greatly.
I might suggest that the same case was anyone that wishes to contact and try and schedule a meeting with administration. I would assume that administration considers every request for discussion as a one-of decision. I don't know that we have a policy on that per se. Councillor Sands?
Yeah, I was thinking along the same lines as Deputy Mayor Coulter. The residents can contact us at any time for any reason, but I like the idea of the open house because it brings the people together that are concerned for this, and they can. I think the public engagement that we need to have with residents is very important, and not just through an email or through a text or a phone call. I think we need to talk to the people. We need to be face to face so we can hear them actually, because you can talk to a person and get their feelings. So I'd like to see that. And I don't know if maybe we could do something like that in, say, the first couple of weeks of September.
Manager Tickle.
Through Mayor Hoover, we're totally open to that. We'll definitely entertain a meeting if that's council's desire. I just want to be careful with expectations. We have an approved area structure plan on this quarter section that we are bound to make sure that any application that comes before council is in conformance with. This application, the area structure plan does identify this lot for R4 zoning, and this application is in conformance with that. So yes, we can go and hear the community. There may be a larger discussion on whether there's a town-led amendment to this area structure planner or what have you. I just want to make sure that it's understood that we can't just arbitrarily entertain low-density redistricting applications without changing the statutory plan that is giving
Yeah.
us the guidance.
Yeah, exactly. Nothing's impossible, you know, so that's what we can look at if need be, I think.
And I would just suggest with council, just again, I appreciate that Manager Tucker, you're pointing out, this is, in my recollection, this is the third public hearing with regards to this area because of the fact that there's been multiple bylaws for development.
That's correct.
So it's not that this hasn't been, open to the public to express. This just happens to be the first time that we've had residents come and express concerns about this. As I said, this has been ongoing for more than a year with multiple public hearings. So while I do understand that there are some concerns from residents, this is not the first time we've had this discussion. Councillor Schwab.
So my thoughts,
Order, sir. I'm sorry, this is not open for discussion. Thank you.
so my thoughts are, we have that public information night in September, which probably falls before our first council meeting in September. If people were interested in speaking to us, they could speak to us at that information night, and then it could be brought back to council for the second and third reading for the first meeting in September. It would give people the opportunity to come out, speak to us on their taxes, but also on what's going on in that area. And then it should give us a chance to make a better informed decision on how we want to proceed with this.
So as administration has pointed out, there is the opportunity, the motions that are recommended here are the readings, but we could, if someone wishes to make a motion to refer this back to administration at this point, then I would assume, CEO Isaac, then you would bring this back at a later meeting. Would you request, or would you prefer that this is a date specified on this, or just referring this back to administration at this point?
I would prefer, sorry, if you would just ask for postponement for second and third reading to specify dates. So maybe that second meeting in September, which will give you that date.
Thank you. So we could bring this back in September for reading. It gives it, I think, ample opportunity for residents that would like to express any concerns, not just to administration, but to council. And
Sure, I'll make that motion.
so so your motion is to
Yes, to postpone the second and third reading until our second meeting.
September 23rd.
September 23rd, thank you.
thank you. Debate or discussion on that motion? All in favor? Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to item 6.2, request for decision on the Womacks Road and Broadway Ave intersection model and analysis.
Sorry, guys, I just lost my place here.
It's okay, we move, it's way at the end.
Yeah, it's right at the end,
Yeah.
eh? Okay, so we're here tonight to talk about the Womacks Road and Broadway Avenue intersection modeling and analysis. So back at the budget of 2025, we brought this item back to council, and we ended up moving forward with allocating some additional monies there to look at detailed modeling options at the Womacks Road and Broadway Avenue intersection improvements. The previous Stantec memo outlined that in order to best address its short and long-term needs, additional intersection improvements, an example would be the roundabout or signalization are required soon at this location. Which is the main reason why administration brought forward the capital project under the budget deliberations. With a small portion of the additional funds provided, we were able to engage SEMA Plus of Canada to to complete additional analysis, traffic modeling, and conceptual design. This includes opinion of probable costs, along with traffic counts and related information to the proposed intersection improvements. We did provide some modeling videos on how this intersection and surrounding traffic would perform based on the design considerations and projected traffic assumptions. So essentially those videos are there for your viewing. There is the AM and PM existing two-way intersection, the AM and PM proposed four-way intersection, the AM and PM existing roundabout, the way it would function, and then the AM and PM 16,500 population roundabout. So those videos are attached. So overall, the SEMA Plus and Stantec memo mirror each other as far as the need to install of either a mini roundabout or a signalized intersection at this location. However, the signalized intersection will fail earlier than the roundabout will, or should I say, I'll say the mini roundabout. Through this review, we also modeled the intersection of the four-way stop at the intersection, or sorry, this installation of the four-way stop at this intersection, as it was not previously modeled. As per the recommendations made at the time, while it would partially address the sightline concerns, a four-way stop does not address the growing delays as traffic volumes increase at the intersection. As you can see by the videos there, the four-way stop does not clear that buildup of traffic when a train comes by either. So the four-way stop will not address any of the increased traffic demands at that intersection, and it will essentially cause delays whenever the train is crossing. Some of the highlights of the SEMA Plus draft report are mini roundabout versus signalized intersection. The additional analysis of the intersection improvement options at Womacks Road and Broadway Avenue include review of the train crossing impacts. It also confirms that the mini roundabout configuration is a recommended solution for accommodated growth and development, not because of the fact of the size, like the ability to move traffic, but of the fact that there is limited land in that area. So in order to improve that intersection, we can either put in a signalized intersection that's going to fail earlier, or put a mini roundabout in that will fail later. It's around that 15-year horizon when these things are going to start to fail. Future east-west connector. Through the report and also in our initial report, planning for additional access across the railway line, connecting future development areas to the north with Highway 2A will be critical to accommodate future development as we approach beyond that 16,500 population horizon. The main reason why we didn't put that 4-lane road in to begin with was the fact that we had land owners on both sides that just wouldn't happen. So the traffic analysis did indicate that we need to make that lane 4-lane, but in the short term we can leave it 2-lane. Stop signs. The synchro analysis indicated that 2-way and 4-way stop control configurations should operate acceptable under existing conditions. However, by the 16,500 population scenario, both configurations fail. It is of note that the major reason why we're not recommending this moving forward is because of the train event. So in the event of a train, it significantly increases the time it takes to clear the queues following a train disruption, particularly on westbound Womacks Drive, where the time to clear and resume normal operations is over 30 minutes. New traffic counts. So in 2025, counts were slightly higher than the 2024 volumes, however not significant. The weekday counts at Womacks Road and Broadway Avenue confirms that the highest peak is between 4:30 and 5:30 p.m., accommodating 923 vehicles at the intersection within the hour. The school peak is not substantially lower, with a total of 861 vehicles. The Bulldogs peak hour before the game volumes are like the PM peak hour. After the game, the total intersection volumes are significantly lower. However, there is more defined peak within that hour as more traffic is recognized. Traffic volumes. Updated traffic counts were collected as part of this additional analysis, providing information on traffic patterns outside of the morning and afternoon PM peaks, and allowed for comparison of operations of the single lane Liberty Avenue and Lantern Street mini roundabout and Gasoline Alley, which is similar to what would be constructed at Womacks Road and Broadway Avenue intersection as a mini roundabout. The Lantern Street roundabout accommodates around 1,100 vehicles on the Saturday peak hour, about 160 vehicles more than the existing PM peak hour at Womacks and Broadway. So some of the options that we reviewed, again, the recommended option would be mini roundabout with westbound right turn lane. SEMA Plus did look at the option of having a dedicated northbound right-hand turning lane, and that wasn't really considered. You're not going to get any bang for your buck. You're not going to be able to clear out that intersection any faster. A lot of people are going straight through that intersection or turning left. The amount of people that are turning right would probably just end up turning around and then coming back. So really the option one was recommended because it addresses the sightline concerns and increased traffic demands. The roundabout has a proven benefit compared to other types of intersections for increased safety with reduced conflict points, promoting lower speeds and traffic calming, improved operational performance, and environmental benefits, i.e. there's less idling at a stop sign or a controlled intersection. As well as there wouldn't be any cost to actually maintain those traffic signals because they wouldn't be there. It also reduces westbound traffic queuing and compared to the signalized alternative. And it clears queuing of roadway quickly after a train stop condition. Option 2, signalized with dedicated westbound right turn and southbound left turn lanes. This addresses sightline concerns and increased traffic demands, lower capital costs but higher operating costs compared to a mini roundabout. Design would need to address skewed north-south traffic movement and shielding of traffic signal lights with the close proximity of residential properties. So we'd have to look at some ways to basically shield the signal lights or the traffic lights from the residential properties. And the design of signals would require CPKC approvals and coordination. Option 3, northwest corner bulb. So essentially pulling that sight line out to the south, rebulbing that area and reconfiguring some of the existing laneways so that they're a little bit more conducive to the sight lines that are there. And option 4 is not really do anything. I guess overall, we did get some additional costs or some updated costs for the options. Option 1, the roundabout, the mini roundabout with westbound right turn lane would be around $1.1 million. Option 2, the signalization would be around $600,000 or $578,000. Option 3, northwest bulb, would be around $66,000. What we're recommending tonight is that council direct administration to bring Womacks Road and Broadway Avenue intersection modeling and analysis back to council for their consideration as part of the 2026 capital budget discussions with a finalized SEMA Plus review and additional analysis memo as presented or as revised. And with that, I'll open up to any questions.
Thank you. Maybe just before we take questions, we do have a SEMA Plus rep that's been patiently waiting online. So I just thought I would give, Phil, thank you for waiting. I'm sure you have some input to give us before we take some questions. Go ahead.
Well, I thought my role would just be to answer questions, but Preston's report does summarize our report pretty succinctly. Really, the only difference is between what we did and what the Stantec report did last year is we pushed things along in terms of the traffic analysis, right? We went through this micro simulation exercise where we looked at train events and how they surge traffic through your system, because that's really something that you need that kind of software to analyze. If we just look at the individual intersections, we don't get that big picture about how a train event will affect things. So that's how we kind of move the yardsticks forward that way. But otherwise, our conclusions are pretty much the same as the Stantec reports. I mean, a roundabout's going to cost more. It's going to kind of last longer, and compared to a signalized intersection. And then apart from that, each alternative kind of has a few of their own pros and cons. So it's really, one of those things where there's no silver bullet. there's just a series of alternatives that all have, different advantages and disadvantages for you to, kind of weigh against each other.
Thank you. Councillor Schwab.
I don't have any questions as of right now, but I did watch the video several times and I do have a long comment to make. Since I've been on council for the past 8 years and the past few years, we have had problems with this intersection. I feel it starts from the 2015 traffic master plan. We built a new arena with limited parking stalls, which was not a part of that master plan. The traffic master plan mentioned lights. After watching the video from our agenda several times and reflecting on Womacks Road, the purpose was to straighten the road as a major connector to 2A. The video leaves out pedestrians. There are several residents who walk this area every day, and my daughter is one of them. She walks down this road 3 to 5 days a week, and safety is a big concern, especially at Greg Way. In a traffic circle, where will the pedestrians be safe? I'm very concerned about Greg Way. Again, in the video, it wasn't showing much, but there was traffic backed up. There is also an extra long pedestrian crossing, which I know many pedestrians have been nearly hit on. The drivers won't be patient, and I'm afraid that pedestrians may get hit. When we presented Womacks Road and Broadway Avenue the very first time to council, the first term that I was on, Greg Way, Lawton Avenue, and East Avenue were to be closed on Womacks, and they're not. I feel they should be. We lost the downtown connection closing Broadway. Should it have been closed? Would the flow of traffic be much better? Pedestrian lights could have been used for crossing in the parking lot. Greg Way could have been the overflow parking lot. I feel when Westbrook Road, Aurora Heights Boulevard, and Cottonwood Road were developed, maybe there should have been a connector through there. Now we are talking about spending more taxpayers' dollars to fix a problem. The 2025 traffic study being moved to 2026. I feel that kind of sucks. We should be using the study to help find efficiencies. Womacks Road has other traffic problems as well. They also need to be addressed. We need to look at the big picture here. The problems with visibility from Sunridge Avenue, with future problems on Vista Trail with multifamily homes being built, commercial development, and a new school where traffic will increase substantially. For the Broadway Avenue Womacks Road problem, I would like to see a 4-way stop installed and traffic study completed. Let's make sure that what we put there is the right option before we put millions into a tiny traffic circle. This is a budget question, and if I were to vote in favor, the new council really needs to be educated on Womacks Road from the very beginning, when it was supposed to be a 4-lane to what it is now. Those are my comments.
Councillor Sands.
Thank you. Yeah, I agree 100% with you on that. I now, of course, the recommendation is to bring this back. I wasn't in favor of the roundabout. I drive that road every day. And more so now because of this. I wanted to try to eyeball it just to get the feel of it. And I still can't see it. I can't see how this is going to actually be okay. I'd like to see maybe some price for more land acquisition in that area to see what that looks like. I'd like to see, like Councillor Schwab said, pedestrian safety is very important there. One of the biggest things I think we need to take into account is what are we going to do about the Eagle Builder Center parking? And that is going to play a lot into what we should be doing in that area, I feel. So I would like to see some information on land acquisition to put in a bigger roundabout because I mean we potentially have 140 more residences. We've got a milk plant going up. People are moving around. We got a great hockey team. People are going to be coming to see them, and that's going to be busy. And it's not going to take long for us to get to get our population moving again. And I think, you know, having a mini roundabout, just not gonna cut it. And I don't wanna spend that kind of money, to put in something that's only gonna work for a few more thousand people. And then we're gonna look at having to bring it back and spend more. That would be terrible for me. So yeah, but I am in favor to bring this back. But I'd like to see those other things too. I'm not sure how other councillors feel. Thank you.
Councillor Dennis.
I agree with both of you, very good points. And we have to look at the big picture, because the sight lines down here at Way and Womacks are absolutely terrible, and a circle's not gonna help that. And at the end of Womacks and Vista, at peak times, it's very hard to get out there, and visibility is hard. And plus, we have pedestrians now crossing to go to that little mall. Plus, we have 2 restaurants that are gonna be opening there, so it's gonna be that much worse. We need to look at the whole picture and get it figured out, get that traffic master plan done before we spend a pile of money on something that we'll regret doing later, along with the parking lot. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor Coulter.
I'm in agreement with everything that you guys have said here tonight. My comments in regards to Womacks Road with the 30 on it. I'm sorry, I live on Womacks as well. And we have people that don't abide by the 30 speed limit. And even before Vista was in, we didn't have people abiding by it. My children would have to cross right in front of my house because I would not let them go down to where I couldn't see them. But that aside, I don't think that comparing a roundabout in Blackfalds in a residential area compared to Gasoline Alley is fair. I brought up back when the roundabout first came in that I didn't think it would work due to the fact the area doesn't look big enough. And I'm not sure how many people have been on Highway 2A and 597 and been stuck in the traffic there, or how many people have been stuck in the traffic with the train on Highway 2A. I think we're going to end up with a lot of problems in regards to the train, the traffic circle, and people waiting. And myself personally, I like the idea of lights going in. I mean, we have lights on Highway 2A, and we have a lot of traffic there. There's certain things that would be improvement there, but I think big thing is figuring out the Eagle parking as well. Yeah, I would like to see this come back to administration with Councillor Sand's suggestions on more detailed information.
Thank you. Since we do have Phil, and Phil may have some input on this, administration may have some input on this. With this type of traffic circle, has there been, do you have any knowledge of any of these that have been expanded to, a next phase once additional lanes are added to increase capacity?
Yeah, I can respond to that if I may. I don't know of any mini roundabouts that have been expanded into regular roundabouts. I know some that have been converted. For instance, I know of a few instances where a mini roundabout has been installed in a residential area, more of a local road intersection, and then residents say, I don't like this roundabout because I see vehicles driving over the middle of it, right? And we can't put any landscaping in there. And then when it's explaining, well, that's what a mini roundabout is, you're meant to travel over the center if you have to. because it allows us to accommodate larger vehicles. But when we do that, we can't plant anything in the middle. We can't put any signs. And there's always a desire, I wouldn't say always, but there's often a desire to put something in the middle, landscaping or whatever. But then, of course, that means that you can't accommodate those vehicles that you would otherwise. So if you go with any sort of mini roundabout, there'll have to be some explaining to local people that this is not a design flaw, it's the design. Some vehicles have to travel over the center of it, and by virtue of that, we can't plant anything in the middle, or we can't put any signs there. So that sort of thing has happened, but I don't know of any conversions from a mini roundabout to a regular roundabout, apart from just putting something in the middle. But if this location were to work, we would have to actually expand the intersection footprint so that we can accommodate the same vehicles with a regular roundabout that we do with the mini roundabout, because this is not a local intersection. This is much higher up in the hierarchy. I do know of instances where we've taken a standard roundabout that's single lane and we've expanded it to 2-lane. But when you do that, you have to make sure that you've designed for that at the outset so that you know it's going to work if that sort of conversion takes place. So kind of a long-winded answer, but I hope I answered your question. But it's, yeah, no conversions from mini roundabout to a regular roundabout while accommodating the same vehicles as before. But lots of examples where we go from like a 1-lane roundabout to a 2-lane roundabout.
Okay, and just based on that experience, is that conversion or expansion less expensive than starting from square one with the roundabout? Is that something that in SEMA's experience can be done and just as an add-on for marginal amount, or is that again, like starting over?
If you've designed for it at the outset, then it's not a huge extra cost because presumably utilities are already in your ultimate locations and things like that. But there is, of course, there is some cost, and there's a traffic disruption associated with that version. And there's also perhaps a perception among residents that, oh, look, the town's messed up. They're constructing the roundabout again, right? There's sometimes that element to it. Whereas if you go with an interim ultimate arrangement, the perception might be, especially if the interim period is relatively short, that someone's messed up and they're back fixing the roundabout. So you have to be very aware of that and make sure you get the message out. If you decide to go with some sort of interim ultimate arrangement, that is in fact what your plan, that this is not a mistake, this is the way it's been designed, and this is how you're proceeding.
And when you talk about designing for that, what type of considerations would be considered a design for potential future expansion?
Well, the big one will be property. So even if we don't have that property right away, the assumption will be that property is being acquired. And then the next step will be to make sure underground utilities and utility poles and things like that are in the ultimate location, if at all possible, because then it makes that conversion from intro and ultimate that much quicker. So you're not dealing with utility companies coming back in and, that sort of thing. So the overall footprint has to be at least protected for, if not, acquired right away. Then you have to make sure utilities are in their ultimate locations even for the interim.
Thank you. Just so I'll direct this administration. So if this was something that we would be including in budget deliberations, clearly this is going to take a little bit more in-depth discussion. Would this be something that administration recommends would have its own meeting to discuss in terms of budgeting?
Yeah, and if you're thinking of some sort of ultimate roundabout, that's going to require property. Then some thought will have to be given to which properties. Are we just looking at 2 quadrants of the intersection? Are we looking at all 4? Because that decision will determine how the ultimate roundabout looks, and therefore determine how the interim roundabout will be built. Like, for instance, you could acquire the northeast and southeast corners and have the roundabout kind of shifted a little bit eastward in the intersection, or you could decide to acquire property in all 4 corners, which would allow us to kind of center the roundabout more. But that's a decision that would need to be thought through before that design process starts, because that'll determine where the roundabout actually ends up being.
Oh, thanks, Mr. Robert. I don't know if administration wanted to respond, or whether or not I'll let you respond.
Thank you. I think So moving forward, what would be important for us is to make sure that we know what direction council, the additional information you'd be looking at for us to be able to bring back, so that during budget deliberations, you have the information required to be able to make that decision if you feel that you want to make a decision during this upcoming budget deliberations. But we want to make sure that we've covered off that. I've wrote down, you've talked about land acquisition potentially, the Eagle Builders Center parking, pedestrian safety. I just want to make sure that Preston has all of the information so that we're able to bring back what council's looking for.
Councillor Swap.
So I did study the videos quite a bit. I had a conversation with both my daughters regarding the pedestrians because they both walk on Womacks daily. So, and because there was no pedestrians in the video, it made it really hard to understand how the pedestrians would go around the traffic circle. But if I recall, when Director Warren had mentioned, the pedestrians would go on the south side of Broadway and the west side of Womacks Road, if I'm corrected by that.
Yeah, the pedestrians would basically go where they're currently walking.
And they would go around the traffic, like out of the traffic circle completely so that they would not get hit. Is that?
No, they actually go into the traffic
Into
circle.
the traffic circle? Okay, so that's not a good good way on that street. And then Grigway, like we concentrated on Broadway and Womacks, but Grigway is a big problem. And we didn't have a lot of traffic on some of those videos, but I did make a few comments that at 22 minutes, the train was backed up on Highway 2A, and that was during the traffic circle. And Grigway was also backed up a lot. So you have a traffic circle that's flowing from a train and you have 20 cars down Grigway. How impatient are those people waiting to get out of there? And if there's pedestrians going along this great big pedestrian walkway, that's the only biggest one that we have in town, or is they going to get hit? And then the other one I had a comment on was the Grigway was backed up because of the four-way stop and the train at 11 minutes and 35 seconds. So I feel like it doesn't matter what we do to the traffic pattern, Grigway is going to be a problem. When this came to council the very first time, Grigway was supposed to be closed off so that there was no flow. How are we going to mitigate problems with pedestrians if it remains open? And how is the traffic going to go left onto Womacks West when it's backed up and the sight lines are not very good?
Preston, you want me to field some of that?
Sure.
Okay. Yeah, first of all, you're correct in that we didn't model pedestrians in the VISM simulations. They can be modeled. It's difficult, but it can be done. But because they're kind of random, it's hard to know how to work those volumes into the system, right? And it actually takes, in the case of a roundabout, for instance, it actually takes a lot of pedestrian volume to have any measurable effect on how a roundabout operates. And by measurable, I mean anywhere from over 100 pedestrians an hour per leg. Kind of act any different way. The stop control will be somewhat of a different story. And of course, the signals, we presume that the pedestrians will cross on their appropriate signal indication. So there shouldn't be much impact there. So you're correct, we didn't model pedestrians. Pedestrians in roundabouts are very much a big topic these days. And as a roundabout designer, I hear those questions a lot. And there's no kind of short answer to how pedestrians are or how roundabouts are for pedestrians. Some pedestrians like them, some don't. A lot of it depends on what age pedestrian we're talking about, whether it's an elementary school child or a senior. They often have more problems with roundabouts than, middle-aged people like myself. But it comes down to kind of a whole host of things. For instance, when we talk about pedestrians at a roundabout, we kind of break it down to a number of different categories. Like one of them is safety. And statistically, pedestrians are actually safer at a roundabout, if you look at the hard numbers. But then there's another thing that's called security, or the perception of safety. And that's quite different. It's how you feel when you walk through a roundabout. And a lot of people aren't that comfortable with it. So even though you might explain to them, oh, the roundabout's quite safe, if they don't feel safe, that's a different story, right? Another component is accessibility. So for a blind person, roundabouts are less accessible than a signalized intersection because they don't get a walk indication, the beeping or chirping sounds that signals often have. So they find it more difficult to cross. Then the final one is convenience. And here again, the roundabout tends to be better because wait times are so low. And in fact, when a roundabout gets really busy, wait times for pedestrians tend to be really low because it is crossing between the queued vehicles, right, that are stationary at the roundabout waiting to get in. So those four kind of components, a roundabout's better for two of them, and let's say a signalized intersection is better for two of them. So it kind of what comes down to, where are your priorities? What kind of roundabout are we talking about? Because small roundabouts like what we're talking about here are better for pedestrians than, say, the roundabout at 2A597, right? As a pedestrian, that'd be fairly daunting to cross, but a smaller roundabout like we're talking about here, or a mini roundabout, is easier to cross. So, and it's statistically safer and more comfortable for pedestrians. So it's just a whole mix of things. There's no real easy answer. But to say roundabouts are less safe, that's not true. But to say I don't feel safe crossing at a roundabout, to some people that's quite valid, and that's something that we do have to listen to.
Well, and looking at Red Deer County, like their little ones, they don't have pedestrian crossing, but we have kids that come from the east side to going to the junior campus starting at grade 6 that would have to use that roundabout, and we have people that like to walk to work every day and get access to 2A. And I know a lot of people are very worried about their families having to go through a roundabout and being safe. So I don't know, even with kids riding their bikes, we're going to have an education component with the schools so that the kids understand how to use it too. Because even as adults, roundabouts have only been around in Alberta for a few years, but some people still don't know how to use them. So.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Deputy Mayor Coulter.
Thank you for that information. I do have a question in regards to one of your comments, because you were talking about, and we have to look at a lot of different aspects here. If talking about a mini roundabout and what happens with an expansion on it, but if we go with the mini roundabout, then we add another lane, how's that going to affect the pedestrian traffic? So, like, is there going to be a big difference?
There will be some difference. If you start adding lanes to the roundabout, that will obviously help drivers, but not necessarily pedestrians or cyclists. But it does come down to the details and how it's designed. For instance, if you design a single lane roundabout or a mini roundabout, and then you just arbitrarily add a lane to it, then traffic's going to be able to go through there way too fast, and that will not be safe for anybody. So that's why you have to design the ultimate of whatever it is you're building first, to make sure that if you ever go there by adding a lane or whatever, that it still works and the traffic speeds are still reasonably slow. Because that's key to a roundabout, is to make sure the traffic speeds are slow. That helps you get into the roundabout. It lowers the probability of a crash involving other drivers, and it makes pedestrians and cyclists feel safer, and it also lowers the probability of a crash with them. So it's always about the design details of the roundabout and making sure that the speeds are low.
And I guess further to that, the secondary lane won't actually be, there won't be any pedestrians crossing there, because it's going to be a double lane only on the northeast quadrant. So all the pedestrians are going to be on the southwest side crossing. So the additional lane will basically act like a dedicated right-hand turn lane in the normal intersection. You know, where you come up to the intersection, then you split and you go to the right to do your right-hand turn movement. So there is no planned pedestrians on the east side of Broadway for the, very foreseeable future at that location.
Or the north side of Womack, I would
Or the
assume.
north side of the intersection.
Yeah. So it may be a little more tangible question. So we did approve funding to look at design up until this point. If we were to ask for additional design based on considerations for potential future expanded roundabout, is that something that is doable within the amount, the budget that was approved?
Yes, it would depend on how far detailed we want to go, but it was a $200,000 budget, and we've spent $43,000 in the existing modeling, so there definitely is a lot of room there. The cautionary note is that until we get into physical detailed design, we're only looking at things on paper and our best guesses. You have to look at utilities and everything else like that if you're going to be getting into that. Now, saying that, there's no reason why we couldn't do some initial investigations on going back to look at land acquisition, widening of the road, different configurations of the intersection itself.
Yes, thank you. So there's more statements here than questions for me. I do understand what we're trying to do now is based on years of history to get us where we are. Everything that we've done, we can't necessarily, we can't go backwards 50 years. A lot of this is 50 plus years history, I'm sure, to get us where we are now, and we're trying to make changes incrementally to deal with the growth. We know what we do know, what I believe is this is probably one of the highest priority traffic issues for us to deal with in the community. We do need to address this. I don't want to see this pushed down the, down the road, funny analogy, down the road any much further, because by the time we, if we keep pushing it, we'll be at that 16,000 population. We do need to address this, but I do understand that what I interpret from everyone is that we need to consider what is the potential for the next phase. I know with Womack, we've looked at 4 lanes. We know what it would take to expand to 4 lanes from Broadway down to Highway 2A. I would think there's a benefit to looking at what would be the design upfront that would allow us to expand this beyond the 16.5 horizon. And obviously that's going to need land and some planning when it comes to utilities, et cetera. From my perspective, I think that would be the most logical next step in what we do to investigate this, in order to know that we can possibly move forward on something to address the problem that we have now, but also address expansion in the future. But that's my perspective. Councillor Dennis.
So on the traffic master plan, when we have that done, will that show the option of having Westview Drive connect to South Street at all? Westridge Drive, sorry. Going straight.
The 4-way stop at Womacks and West.
Going straight over.
Yeah, it does contemplate that already.
Okay. And when I was on council in the 90s, way back in the day, Lansdowne, the plan was to have a crossing on Lansdowne, crossing straight across to Lansdowne on the east side.
Oh, yes.
Or on the
East
south side, I guess, it's east side, across the tracks there. That might not be too much, because there's no buildings in between there. We might be able to divert traffic to go across that. It's a short span, but just get the okay with, we'd have to go through the train and everything. But maybe looking at that in the master plan, that might be more beneficial than to mess around with a whole bunch of stuff here that's going to cost a heck of a lot of money.
So I guess to kind of circle back, if we want to look at this intersection and the surrounding intersections, you want to update the functional master plan that was done for the Gregg and Womacks intersection. That's the planning document, and that's the engineering document when we looked at this 4 years ago and we decided to put that through. There was supposed to be 4 lanes going through there. So, you know, in order to address most of these things, it would be that functional plan for that intersection and the surrounding intersections that you'd look at. The transportation master plan looks at the routes and the existing land that's available, and then it determines what best improvements are to move forward. So for instance, it would say exactly what we said tonight, is at this intersection, based upon the existing geometry, we need to either put a signalized intersection in or a roundabout or widen it. That's kind of what the transportation master plan will say. The transportation master plan isn't going to address any of these other concerns unless we specifically put scope in that to look at functional planning around those different intersections. So I just want to make sure that council understands what the scope of the transportation master plan is. It's really not to look at high-level planning corridors, you know, throughout the community. It's more along the lines of how can we make the existing legal fabric work with the existing corridors we have based upon, you know, those maximum traffic flows. So the assumptions that were made in the 2015 transportation master plan are still very close. We knew that this intersection was going to be very busy. We knew that the northbound turning movement and the southbound turning movement and that turning movement coming into the intersection on the westbound was going to be difficult. We knew that 5 years ago, we knew that 10 years ago. That's why we did that 2004 functional Gregg Street Womacks realignment. And in that functional plan, there was the plan to attach, Gregg Way was always supposed to connect, but the other 2 intersections weren't. So there's going to be a point in time when you're going to have to look at ways to mitigate that intersection, and the ways you can mitigate that intersection are put a signalized intersection in there, do a roundabout, or some other sort of configuration of the 2. The long walk there is a concern. It's going to be a concern until we get to the point where we can put some traffic calming in there or some other way we can, you know, reduce that. We've looked at rapid flashing beacons. I was just driving down that intersection today at noon. I stopped for an individual that was crossing southbound. He didn't want to push the button. He didn't even want to walk. I stopped and I waved him twice before he actually, okay, I'm going to walk across there. So it is going to be an educational thing that we're going to have to look at throughout this whole area. So I guess those are kind of my comments.
Councillor Schwab?
I think with Gregg Way though, those traffic mitigations with the beacons aren't going to help because people are coming different ways and there's different angles. But I did like in the video that they did have that little boulevard for the right-hand turn in, because that would give the pedestrians a little bit more safety when they're crossing the street. I thought that was a very good video for the walking part of the pedestrians that weren't on there.
Yeah, and we didn't add pedestrians there because
no, I understand.
There's really, like, the main concern is the traffic, right, and the train. So, you know, if we're looking at costs that we want to mitigate, well, the roundabout is going to last the longest with the most population growth. The signalized intersection is going to be okay for a while too. Don't recommend putting a 4-way stop there for obvious reasons. You could even go and do the reconfiguration of the lanes and moving that stop bar. That would help your immediate problem. So there's lots of options here, and you know, but there is no silver bullet, so to speak, other than essentially putting in a 4-lane roadway there. And really, right now, the traffic volumes don't constitute doing that.
Thank you. So, I mean, administration looking for some direction. I would say that clearly we need to have this discussion in terms of budgeting to resolve something in this intersection. I think you've got some direction in terms of other information that we're looking for. Knowing that there's money in the budget, as Director Weirin is suggesting, this looks like more of a functional study as opposed to a traffic master plan. I'd be circling around the fact that this traffic master plan won't be done for the community and for a couple of years, but I don't think that that's what we were looking at. I think this is more of a functional study of this, maybe a couple of intersections either side of this that are seem to be most impacted by this. So I would suggest that that be the direction to administration, is to bring this back for budget considerations with that additional information and potential planning for expansion. Councillor Schwab.
I do have one question about the budgeting. The first term that I was running for council, we were allowed to come into council chambers, I believe it was at the beginning or end of August, as recently people that have put in their names to have part of that budget discussion. And I believe we were provided with some of the budget binders at that time so that we could understand more. Is this part that we're talking about, the budget, going to be for old council or new council? Do we have a date on that?
So we will be doing budget deliberations in February this year.
So
Yeah.
that won't affect. Okay, perfect. I just want to make sure that they're educated.
Sorry, the capital will be earlier. I'm just going to let Justin add in here.
Yeah, so similar to most years, that we like to get the capital budget approved December 9th. So that will be the intent this year. There is opportunities through the Standing Committee in November to have capital discussions as well. So, but yeah, the intent is to get it approved before the year end, so we can get proceed with that. That doesn't bar any decisions coming into February. We'd just like to get the majority of the capital budget approved in December.
Thank you. So that's a lot of discussion. I think clearly there's an appetite for us to get a lot more information back, but it comes down to, this being a budget discussion. Again, I don't feel that this is something we can perpetually push off. We need to, have some direction, and we do have money in the budget to look at continuing design potential for this. So is there consideration for a motion here the motion is literally just bringing this back as part of a budget deliberation? With additional information would be my suggestion, yes. Councillor Sands.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to say, just to add to what you were talking about there about bringing this back, and actually being able to give the new council the information that they actually need, and to hopefully have them understand and plan for the future, so that we're not paying 2-3 times to have these areas done, and we just bite the bullet and look at everything, all the options, and then take it from there. And hopefully the new council can see that, and we give them that information that they need to make that educated decision. So.
Well, this council has approved funding to get us further along, at least in that consideration design. Yes.
I just also want to make note, we can always amend the capital budget at a later time as well. So if we want to make sure that we're getting this right. So it may be that a capital budget is approved, knowing that this item will be coming forward at a later time once we have all the information, if it's not ready by the time council's ready to make that capital budget decision.
So as suggested, we do have the motion with the addition of basically the statement of considering the additional information as discussed. If someone's willing to do that. Councillor Sands.
Can I just say so moved?
I would ask Commissioner, are we clear? Thank you. Debate or discussion on that motion? All in favor? Thank you. And that is unanimous. Moving on to 6.3, request for decision on bylaw 1336.25, the land use bylaw housekeeping amendments, first reading.
Thank you, Mayor Hoover, members of council. Land use bylaws provide the blueprint for all development that occurs within the town's municipal jurisdiction. So it's very important that it remains up to date, it provides clear development requirements, and reflects the planning and development needs of our community. The Planning and Development Department is constantly monitoring the effectiveness of the town's land use bylaw to ensure it continues to support our community's vision and is responsive to trends in land use planning, development pressures, and the needs and desires of our residents and business owners. The department maintains a comprehensive list of amendments, and when time permits, an amending bylaw is prepared and brought forward for council's consideration. The amending bylaw before council captures the more minor amendments noted over the years that do not require extensive research or public consultation outside of the public hearing process. We call them housekeeping amendments. There are several themes in the amendments before you. The first one has to do with modular homes. You're very likely aware that the federal government has passed a Build Canada Homes initiative, which will see significant injection into prefab homes. Right now, we treat modular homes, which are prefab homes, as discretionary uses and separate them from detached dwellings. However, the only difference between these two uses is that modular homes are built off-site and detached dwellings are built on-site. With the recent launch of this, again, it is designed to accelerate the construction of affordable housing, and it's anticipated to make a major shift towards more prefabricated and modular homes. By removing the distinction between the two uses, it'll put the town in a better position to accommodate this shift. We have several bylaw, so the bylaw numbers 2.1 to 2.3, 2.8, 2.17, 2.19, and 2.21 are all related to removing the distinction between modular homes and detached dwellings. The next theme is general land use bylaw clarity, consistent, and functionality. With respect to land use bylaw clarity, consistency, and functionality, we've got several amendments. The first being Amendment 2.4 proposes to remove an inconsistency in the land use bylaw under moving storage pod definition. The definition limits moving pods to residential uses for a maximum of 7 days. However, the associated regulations allow them to be located for a maximum of 14 days and doesn't just restrict them to residential district. Amendment 2.4 proposes to remove the regulations from the definitions, so the associated regulations in section 4.12 are applicable as they are more flexible and reasonable in administration's opinion. Amendment 2.5 expands a setback requirement from an ATCO-CAS easement to also pertain to easements held by Fortis Alberta. Amendment 2.6 proposes to clearly state that properties zoned residential multi-dwelling district R2 require a minimum 25% landscaping in the front yard except for multiple housing development and mixed-use development uses. The multiple housing development and mixed-use development uses are proposed to still require the more robust landscaping standards, which is consistent with the way the higher density R2 developments were previously regulated. Please refer to Amendment 2.7 for the amendment reflecting this change. This was identified as a needed amendment when the front parking pad amendments were brought before council and will clearly communicate that R2 properties that are eligible to apply for a front parking pad will require 25% of the front yard to remain landscaped. Amendment 2.9 fixes a minimum required length error regarding the overall depth of a parking stall at a 90-degree angle. This error was noted by our municipal engineer when reviewing a development permit application. Amendment 2.10 deletes specific reference to the Municipal Planning Commission and replaces it with the Development Authority. This is being done because the Development Officer is the approving authority for home-based businesses. However, they can always bring an application to an MPC, so we're just making it more open that it's Development Authority. Amendment 2.12 corrects a small grammatical error. Amendments 2.24 to 2.26 propose to clean up some confusing setbacks in the residential manufactured home park district, along with removing specific setbacks for larger models. The prescribed setback should not be specific to the size of a manufactured home. The home either fits or it doesn't. Amendment 2.43 brings back a previously established front yard setback into the industrial light district that was missed in the 2022 land use bylaw. Amendment 2.46 proposes to include the first page of the Direct Control District Number 1, which was unintentionally omitted in the 2022 land use bylaw. Administration is proposing a new use in the DC1 district along with the DC2 district, oh my goodness, sorry, which is to include home-based business 1 as a permitted use. When administration brought forward the new DC district for the parcel adjacent to the Protective Services building, there was a lot of positive feedback about including home-based business 1 in that DC district. So we took that as an opportunity to also include it in the DC1s and the DC2 districts. Amendment 2.49 corrects a legal land description of a property governed by the Direct Control District number 3. The next theme has to do with religious assembly. It was recently brought to administration's attention that religious assembly, which is defined as a building where people assemble for worship and related religious, charitable, and social activities that is maintained or controlled for public worship, has been significantly reduced in the land use districts it is allowed under a new land use bylaw. Amendment numbers 2.18, 2.20, 2.22, 2.23, 2.27, 2.28, 2.30, 2.32, 2.36, 2.38, and 2.40 all propose to reinstate the use back into the land use district it has historically been allowed. The only exception is we're not proposing to bring that back into the DC districts because they have been in, those districts were intentionally developed for site-specific developments, and for the most part they've been developed out. The next theme is sign amendments. The 2022 land use bylaw simplified signage into one umbrella use category in all the land use districts and lists them as a discretionary use in all of them. This has caused unintended consequences when processing applications for temporary signs and unnecessary long process timelines for both temporary and fascia signs. To address this, administration is proposing to split out temporary and fascia signs from the umbrella sign use and move them into the permitted use category in the higher density residential districts that have uses contemplated that are more likely to require a temporary or a fascia sign, example apartments, all commercial and industrial districts along with the public facility district. Those amendments can be found in 2.29, 2.31, 2.33 to 2.35, 2.37, 2.39, 2.41, 2.42, 2.44, and 2.45. Other sign-related amendments include a new definition of mural and an expansion of the approval mechanism from the current requirement of council approval to also be considered by town policy or bylaw. We're also proposing to expand the way signs on public property may be authorized and clarifying setback requirements for post signs. And lastly, amendments 2.50 and 2.51 propose to redistrict the recently created municipal reserve parcel to encompass an existing trail link on the east side of the Blackfalds Crossing commercial development between the commercial area and Highway 2A, from the Commercial Highway District C2 to Parks and Recreation District PR. The PR district is consistent with the way we treat other trail links throughout town. With all of that said, administration is asking that council consider the following two motions. The first one is that council give first reading to bylaw 1336.25 land use bylaw housekeeping amendments as presented. And secondly, that council set a public hearing date for August 26th, 2025 at 7 p.m. in council chambers. I welcome any questions.
Well, there you go. There's no questions. I do appreciate in particular the amendments and it's a lot of
Yes.
amendments, a lot of housekeeping, but in particular the ones regarding to the prefabricated homes, which as we know, our federal government has an aggressive timeline when it comes to moving along some of that development with Building Canada Strong. So I think it's appropriate that we try and get ahead of that, knowing that that's coming. So, Deputy Mayor Coulter.
Just sort of a little bit of an amendment in regards to, thank you for all this hard work on this. But in regards to setting a public hearing, I'm wondering if we shouldn't make it more into September. As this redistricting was a big conversation tonight, and to have more of an open house where more people can come in and I'm just thinking, talking about the summer and open houses, and if we don't, is it possible to move this to the first meeting in September instead of the end of August?
Through Mayor Hoover, I can definitely appreciate where you're coming from. This redistricting is just redistricting a trail to Parks and Recreation District. In planning's opinion, it's a fairly low-risk redistricting application. But with that said, council always has the ability to set the public hearing date at a later date if you feel more comfortable with that.
Thank you. Well, I think we pushed a couple of things to September that may be timely, time-consuming, but open for discussion. Councillor Sands?
I think I'm okay with moving it as well if that's what council wants to see. But I think moving forward, I think something we should be bringing up is to ideally move any public hearings out of the summer altogether. I hope that's something that we can do with administration, so that we can do that. But either way, with regards to this, for these amendments, I'm okay to leave it. I'm okay to move it. So.
Okay, thank you. I feel like 26th of August, that's probably, most people would be back. This is, I would think that some schools even started by that time, but I don't know for sure. I don't have kids in school. Oh my. I didn't know that part. Well, then they're all free, right? Anyway, that is a suggestion if someone wants to make an alternative date. So what would the alternative dates be?
The first meeting is September 9th.
If that's what the motion is, however, that would be whoever wants to make the motion. At this point,
Sorry, I just wanted to add on the question about change settings so that we wouldn't have any public hearings during the summer. We'd have to look at that because there are timelines within the MGA of when we have to, whether it's 30, 60, 90 days. I can't tell you exactly right now, but we would have to look at that because once a permit comes in, we have a duty to be able to, complete that process within a time frame. So we would have to look at that. That's the one thing about moving any public hearings. We just have to say we're not accepting any applications over this time period. So that looks like we're closed for business. So that's just a comment that I wanted to make note of.
And I might suggest that that'll actually potentially be even shorter based on some of the discussion at both the federal and provincial level when it comes to automatic yes legislation from both levels, that we would have even more pressure to address this. Otherwise, it's automatically approved. But Councillor Schwab.
I feel that this public hearing is probably not going to affect residents unless they want to talk about modular homes. I think that it would be fine just to leave it at the end of August. I don't see why we need to drag it out any further.
Thank you. That would be consideration in terms of what you vote on and if whatever the motion is. Deputy Mayor Coulter.
Sorry, just sort of in regards to CEO Isaac's comment and timelines and stuff like that. Is it possible, because sometimes I find that we're getting the open house within a short time period, going back to last one we talked about, you said beginning of June you got the application. Is there any way we can get notice in regards to the applications a little bit sooner, that we're a little bit more prepared when it comes to?
Through Mayor Hoover, are you asking when they're submitted?
Yeah.
Council would want to report on those?
Better idea when it's coming, because like it's hard, like making the changes on Vista Trail for the R4 districts and R2 districts, and we're reading through all these amendments, but the application's already been approved.
Through Mayor Hoover, Planning and development does try to include some early discussions that we're having with developers in our weekly CAO reports. We've got to be careful with confidentiality because they are open documents. That is one way that we are attempting to give council a heads up that some things are coming down the line. If it is the request of council that we report back on when there's applications on area structure plan amendments, land use bylaw amendments, including rezonings and that sort of stuff, I believe that's something that administration can entertain.
Yes, we can do that. I think one other thing that I'd like to note is that when the first reading is given, you're setting the public hearing at that time. So you're knowing at that time when the public hearing is coming. So that should be giving you enough time to prepare for that public hearing and, you know, looking at what the amendments are. So usually you have that agenda, you know, 3 or 4 days in advance of giving it first reading. Then often it's 2 or 3 weeks at minimum, I would say, to when that public hearing is going to be held. So there's a fair bit of lead time in that. But again, we're bound by the MGA and those timelines as well of when we can get the decisions out to those developers as well. So, but we can, you know, try to give you a bit more of a heads up at the during the weekly updates of some of these coming forward as much as possible.
And if I may piggyback on that, we can also have. We can't do public hearings any sooner than 4 weeks because of the advertising requirements of the Municipal Government Act, but we can do public hearings later than that. We can set them 2 months after first reading is given. But I do just want to let council know that the development community, time is money. And when they make these applications, there is that expectation that that there's some expedient attention to these, and these public hearings and these processes are done fairly fast. Should we stop public hearings during the summer months, that will stop subdivision applications coming forward for the most part, because a lot of them are part and parcel with that. So it is, it will have implications on the development of the community and interest of developers moving forward.
Okay, thank you. So we do have 2 motions in front of us, first being first reading. Councillor Schwab.
I'll move that council give first reading to bylaw 1336.25 land use bylaw housekeeping amendments as presented.
Thank you. Debate or discussion? All in favor? That is unanimous. Thank you. Looking for a motion to set a public hearing. Deputy Mayor Coulter.
I move the council sets a public hearing date for August 26, 2025 at 7 p.m. in council's chamber.
Thank you. Debate or discussion on that motion? All in favor? Thank you. That passes unanimously. Moving on to, where are we at? Item 6.4, request for decision on S-04-25 Valley Ridge Phase 6B subdivision.
Thank you, Mayor Hoover. In light of council's decision to not give second and third reading to the amending bylaw, council can do 2 things with the subdivision application. We can postpone it until second and third reading has been granted, or you can refuse it with reasons at this meeting because it does not meet the subdivision does not meet the intent of the existing zoning.
And just given our procedural bylaw, that would make it 6 months, correct? So I would say since we've postponed the bylaw, I would suggest that we simply do the same thing with the subdivision, would be my thought. Okay, someone wish to make that motion?
I move that we postpone this.
We set a date,
till
correct?
September
I
something.
think I would just say you'd postpone this subdivision until second and third reading of bylaw
There we go.
1337 has been considered.
Thank you. Those are my
Thank
words.
you. Debate or discussion on that motion? All in favor? That is unanimous. Thank you. Moving on to item 6.5, request for decision on baseball freestanding mural.
Good evening, Mayor Hoover and Council. This report is coming forward to you today well, I guess I'll just read it right from here. The proposed baseball mural has been commissioned by the Blackfalds and Area Historical Society. It will celebrate our baseball history with images of real baseball teams from Blackfalds past. The mural's location has been chosen as a great spot for team photos and the proximity to the Trans-Canada Trail. On December 10th, 2024, Council did approve pursuing more murals and establishing additional murals along Highway 2A. This mural is the start of many more. Due to the current policies, approval from Council is required for the size and the location of any mural. I can go through the discussion points as well if you'd like.
I've had a good read of it. I don't know.
Sure.
Council, do you feel that we need to go through all these points? Okay. I feel like we probably could move on to the recommendations.
For sure. So the recommendations that we have, first, the mural shall be undertaken and completed in accordance with the approved freestanding baseball mural site plan. Number 2 is the freestanding baseball mural shall not be closer than, am I reading the right stuff?
Yep.
Yep. The freestanding baseball mural shall not be closer than 0.5 or half a meter to any registered easement or right-of-way and shall not be constructed within or encroached upon registered right-of-way. The applicant shall repair and reinstate or pay for the repair or reinstatement to the original condition any public property, street furniture, curbing, boulevard, landscaping, and tree planting or any other property owned by the town which is damaged, destroyed, or otherwise harmed in the installation of the freestanding baseball mural. And any changes to the size, the location of the freestanding mural requires prior authorization from the town.
Thank you. So that is one single motion in 4 parts. If anybody would like to move that, I think we've already moved one as just so moved. Yes, Councillor Sands.
So moved.
Thank you. Everybody understands that. Debate or discussion? All in favor? And that is unanimous. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much.
Moving on to 6.6, request for decision on the quarterly financial reports for the period ending June 30th, 2025.
Thank you, Mayor Hoover and Council. I'm here to present the quarterly financial reports for the period ending June 30th, 2025. The quarterly financial reports for the period ending June 30th are attached. Together, these reports represent the financial activities of the municipality year to date. Appendix A, which is the operating statement of revenue and expenditures. We got Appendix B, which is the divisional summary. And capital projects are listed under Appendix C. And finally, council expenditure report is Appendix D. Under discussion, the operating revenues recognized for the period ending June 30th are at 13.8 million, which represents 52% of the budgeted revenues. Operating expenses are 11 million, which equates to 45% of the annual budgeted expenditures. They're slightly below the quarterly budgeted amount. This creates a current operating surplus of 2.7 million. This is before the transfers to reserve. Environmental services, which is utilities, had revenues of 4.4 million, or 44% of the annual budget, and expenses are under at 40%, which is 3.6 million, creating a surplus of around 842,000. Once again, any surplus at year end are transferred to the utility reserves. Appendix B provides the divisional various analysis. I won't go through line by line, but there are some revenues and expenditure comments listed in the report there. Under capital projects, Appendix I think C there, we have around $20.2 million plus the new funding from 2025 of 3.9 million. To date, we've spent around 2.3 million, and that's listed in the appendix. And the statuses of the projects are listed there as well. So if you've got any questions on that, please do feel free to ask. And the council report is the Appendix D, shows approximately 50% in line with what we're expecting for council. Before you do have the 3 recommended motions. The council accepts all the reports as information. And with that, I'll open up for any questions.
Thank you. Questions or comments? I see none. seems to be on track as normal. Councillor Sands.
If nobody has anything, I'm prepared to move. That council accept the operating statement and variance report for the period ending June 30th, 2025 as information.
Thank you. Debate or discussion? All in favor? That is unanimous. Thank you. Deputy Mayor Coulter.
I move the council accepts the capital project report for the period ending June 30th, 2025 as information.
Debate or discussion? All in favor? That is unanimous. Thank you. Councillor Swab.
I'll move the council accept the council expenditure report for the period ending June 30th, 2025 as information.
Thank you. Debate or discussion? All in favor? And that is unanimous. Thank you. Moving on to 6.7, being the request for decision on the support letter for Red Deer Ladies Fastball Association.
Thank you, Worship and Council. So yeah, last year, you all recall that the Red Deer Ladies Fastball Association hosted the Canadian Women's Fast Pitch Championships at Sterling Industries Sports Park in August. They're doing that again in August of 2026. And now they are asking for support, a letter of support, I guess, for their bid for the U19 Canadian Women's Fast Pitch Championship, which would follow, which would precede the Women's Championship in 2026. Our relationship with the Red Deer Ladies Fastball Association has been very good, and they've actually hosted 4 provincial championships here just this year alone. So, and this, of course, aligns with our midterm strategic plan for sports tourism. So, originally they had requested waiving fees, but we are recommending that they apply for community initiatives grant funding for this event. So, with that, we have the motion, and if council has any questions.
Questions, comments? Councillor Dennis.
I myself don't like placing money for something when might not be here. Like to earmark it, because that's the next council's decision.
Yeah,
For
the intention of
grant
this is not to earmark, they would just apply for it. That's just our recommendation, is that they would
Just to apply
Yeah,
for it?
Yeah, just.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Then that's okay. I just seen the financial implications up there.
Thank you. I know that I've been asked to take part in, I think, 3 weekends in a row of different provincials. Obviously, it's extremely popular. Our facility is, well liked in the region, and so this is another indication that that these associations like bringing their teams to Blackfalds. I do have a question, and it was asked to me during these tournaments, recent tournaments. We have capital planning, or we have planning to add the additional diamond. Is it next year?
Yes, I
Would
think it's
that-
in next year's budget.
Would that be in place prior to this this
I'm,
fund?
I'm not sure if it will be done by that point. It would be tight.
It would be. I know that they indicated if it was in place, they would be looking at provincials and the nationals being held back to back. Was the indication. Councillor Sands.
Yeah, I would thanks. I was just going to add to what you were mentioning there, and last year's tournament there, when I met up with Premier Smith, she'd also mentioned how beautiful the park was and how well it was looked after, and I pushed that along to the departments, and yeah, it was really good, and I'm a supporter of this for sure. So. Yep, absolutely.
Would you like to make the motion? Councillor Sands.
I will move that council authorize the mayor to sign a letter of support for the Red Deer Ladies Fastball Association to host the 2026 Under-19 Canadian Women's Fast Pitch Championship, and recommend the association apply for the Community Initiatives Grant funding in 2026 to assist with rental costs.
Thank you. Debate or discussion on that motion? All in favor? That is unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you.
And item 6.8 being the cancellation of the August 12th regular council meeting.
Thank you, Council. The Town of Blackfalds 2025 council meeting schedule includes a regular council meeting scheduled for Tuesday, August 12th, 2025. Upon review of upcoming agenda and consultation with administration, it's been determined that there are no pressing items requiring council's attention. So in accordance with the MGA and the town's procedural bylaw, council may cancel a scheduled meeting if there is insufficient business to warrant convening. Administration has confirmed that there are no time-sensitive items that are pending for the August 12th regular council meeting, so administration is recommending that the August 12th, 2025 regular council meeting be canceled, and canceling this meeting would allow administration to focus on preparation for upcoming items.
Thank you. Questions, comments? Councillor Swap.
I'll move that council formally cancel the August 12th, 2025 regular council meeting and direct administration to post notice of the cancellation.
Thank you. Debate or discussion? All in favor? And that is unanimous.
Thank you.
We have no notice of motion, but we do have confidential items, so I will call a 5-minute bio break at 9:16.